Turpan, also known as Turfan or Tǔlǔfān, is a prefecture-level city located in the east of Xinjiang, People's Republic of China. It has an area of 69,324 square kilometers and a population of 570,000. History. Turpan has long been the center of a fertile oasis and an important trade center. It was historically located along the Silk Road, at which time it was adjacent to the kingdoms of Krouran and Yanqi. The name Turfan itself, however, was not used until the end of the Middle Ages. Its use became widespread only in the post-Mongol period. The center of the region has shifted a number of times, from Yakoto to Kachou, and to Turpan itself. Historically, many settlements in the region have been given a number of different names, some of which refer to more than one place. Turpan, Turfan, Tǔlǔfān is one such example. The peoples of the kingdoms of Nera and further Jushi were closely related. It was originally one kingdom called Gushi, which the Chinese conquered in 107 BC. It was subdivided into two kingdoms by the Chinese in 60 BC. During the Han era, the city changed hands several times between the Zhou and the Han, interspersed with short periods of independence. After the fall of the Han dynasty in 220, the region was virtually independent but tributary to various dynasties. Until the 5th century AD, the capital of this kingdom was Jawa west of Turpan. From 487 to 541 AD, Turpan was an independent kingdom ruled by a Turkic tribe known to the Chinese as the Tila. The Rouran Khaganate defeated the Tila and subjugated Turpan, but soon afterwards the Rouran were destroyed by the Gokturks. Tang conquest. The Tang dynasty had reconquered the Tarim Basin by the 7th century AD. During the 7th, 8th, and early 9th centuries, the Tibetan Empire, the Tang Chinese, and Turks fought to conquer the Tarim Basin. Sogdians and Chinese engaged in extensive commercial activities with each other under Tang rule. The Sogdians were mostly Mazdaras at this time. Turpan, renamed Zhizhou by the Tang after their armies conquered it in 640 AD, had a history of commerce and trade along the Silk Road already centuries old. It had many inns catering to merchants and other travelers, while numerous brothels are recorded in Kutcha and Khotan. As a result of the Tang conquest, policies forcing minority group relocation and encouraging Han settlement led to Turpan's name in the Sogdian language becoming known as Chinatown, or Town of the Chinese. In Astana, a contract written in Sogdian detailing the sale of a Sogdian girl to a Chinese man was discovered, dated to 639 AD. Individual slaves were common among silk route houses. Early documents recorded an increase in the selling of slaves in Turpan. 21 7th century marriage contracts were found that showed where one Sogdian spouse was present. For 18 of them their partner was a Sogdian. The only Sogdian men who married Chinese women were highly eminent officials. Several commercial interactions were recorded. For example, a camel was sold priced at 14 silk bolts in 673, and a Chang'an native bought a girl age 11 for 40 silk bolts in 731 from a Sogdian merchant. 5 men swore that the girl was never free before enslavement, since the Tang code forbade commoners to be sold as slaves. The Tang dynasty became weakened considerably due to the Inlushan rebellion, and the Tibetans took the opportunity to expand into Gansu and the western regions. The Tibetans took control of Turfan in 792. 7th or 8th century old dumplings and wontons were found in Turfan. Uyghur rule in 803. The Uyghurs of the Uyghur Khaganate seized Turfan from the Tibetans. The Uyghur Khaganate, however, was destroyed by the Kyrgyz and its capital Ordubalik in Mongolia sacked in 840. The defeat resulted in the mass movement of the Uyghurs out of Mongolia and the dispersal into Gansu and Central Asia, and many joined other Uyghurs already present in Turfan. In the early 20th century, A collection of some 900 Christian manuscripts dating to the 9th to the 12th centuries was found at a monastery site at Turpan. The Uyghurs established a kingdom in the Turpan region with its capital in Gaochang or Karakoja. The kingdom was known as the Guria Idikut state or Karakoja kingdom that lasted from 856 to 1389 AD. The Uyghurs were Manichaean but later converted to Buddhism and funded the construction of cave temples in the Bezek-like caves. The Uyghurs formed an alliance with the rulers of Dunhuang. The Uyghur state later became a vassal state of the Karakitans, and then as a vassal of the Mongol Empire. This kingdom was led by the Idikus, or saint spiritual rulers. The last Idikut left Turpan area in 1284 for Kumyul, then Gansu, to seek protection of Yuan dynasty. But local Uyghur Buddhist rulers still held power until the invasion by the Moful Hizir Koja in 1389. The conversion of the local Buddhist population to Islam was completed nevertheless only in the second half of the 15th century. After being converted to Islam, the descendants of the previously Buddhist Uyghurs in Turpan failed to retain memory of their ancestral legacy and falsely believed that the infidel Kalmucks were the ones who built Buddhist monuments in their area. 15th and 16th centuries Buddhist idols and temples in Turpan were described in 1414 by the Ming diplomat Chen Sheng. As late as 1420, the Timurid envoy Ghiyath al-Din Naqash, who passed through Turpan on the way from Herat to Beijing, reported that many of the city's residents were infidels. He visited a very large and beautiful temple with a statue of Sheikh Yamuni. In one of the versions of his account it was also claimed that many Turpanians worshipped the cross. The Moful ruler of Turpan, Yunus Khan, also known as Ali, unified Mofulistan under his authority in 1472. Around that time, a conflict with the Ming China started over the issues of tribute trade. Turpanians benefited from sending tribute missions to China, which allowed them to receive valuable gifts from the Ming emperors and to do plenty of trading on the side. The Chinese, however, felt that receiving and entertaining these missions was just too expensive. Yunus Khan was irritated by the restrictions on the frequency and size of Turpanian missions imposed by the Ming government in 1465. And by the Ming's refusal to bestow sufficiently luxurious gifts on his envoys. Accordingly, in 1473 he went to war against China, and succeeded in capturing Hami in 1473 from the Oirat Mongol Henshin and holding it for a while, until Ali was repulsed by the Ming dynasty into Turpan. He reoccupied Hami after Ming left. Henshin's Mongols recaptured Hami twice in 1482 and 1483, but the son of Ali, Ahmad Alak, reconquered it in 1493 and captured the Hami leader and the resident of China in Hami. In response, the Ming dynasty imposed an economic blockade on Turpan and kicked out all the Uyghurs from Gansu. It became so harsh for Turpan that Ahmed left. Ahmed's son Mansa succeeded him and took over Hami in 1517. These conflicts were called the Ming-Turpan Border Wars. Several times, after occupying Hami, Mansa tried to attack China in 1524 with 20,000 men, but was beaten by Chinese forces. The Turpan kingdom under Mansa, in alliance with Oirat Mongols, tried to raid Suzhou in Gansu in 1528. But were severely defeated by Ming Chinese forces and suffered heavy casualties. The Chinese refused to lift the economic blockade and restrictions that had led to the battles, and continued restricting Turpan's tribute and trade with China. Turpan also annexed Hami. 19th century Francis' young husband visited Turpan in 1887 on his overland journey from Beijing to India. He said it consisted of two walled towns, a Chinese one with a population of no more than 5,000 and, about a mile to the west, a Turk town of probably 12,000 to 15,000 inhabitants. The town had 4 gateways, one for each of the cardinal directions, of solid brickwork and massive wooden doors platted with iron and covered by a semicircular bastion. The well-kept walls were of mud and about 35 feet tall and 20 to 30 feet thick, with loopholes at the top. There was a level space about 15 yards wide outside the main walls, surrounded by a musketry wall about 8 feet high, with a ditch around it some 12 feet deep and 20 feet wide. There were drum towers over the gateways, small square towers at the corners and 2 small square bastions between the corners and the gateways, 2 to each front. Wheat, cotton, poppies, melons and grapes were grown in the surrounding fields. Turpan grapes impressed other travelers to the region as well. The 19th-century Russian explorer Grigory Gromyko thought the local raisins may be the best in the world, and noted the buildings of a perfectly peculiar design, used for drying them, called chunch. Subdivisions. Turpan directly controls 1 district and 2 counties. Geography and climate. Turpan is located about 150 kilometers southeast of Urumqi, Xinjiang's capital, in a mountain basin, on the northern side of the Turpan Depression, at an elevation of 30 meters above sea level. Outside of Turpan is a small volcanic cone, the Turpan volcano, that is said to have erupted in 1120 as described in the Song dynasty. Turpan has a harsh, drastic, cold desert climate, with very hot and long summers, and very cold but short winters, and brief spring and autumn in between. Annual precipitation is very low, amounting to only 15.7 millimeters. The monthly 24-hour average temperature ranges from -7.6 degrees Celsius in January to 32.2 degrees Celsius in July. The annual mean is 14.4 degrees Celsius, with monthly possible sunshine ranging from 48% in December to 75% in September. Sunshine is abundant and the city receives 2,912 hours of bright sunshine annually. Temperature differences between summer and winter are oppressively large. The warmest months often approach the stifling intensity of cities such as Phoenix or Las Vegas, while winters produce average lows that more closely resemble frigid Minneapolis. Extremes have ranged from -28.9 degrees Celsius to 48.1 degrees Celsius, although a reading of 49.6 degrees Celsius in July 1975 is regarded as dubious. However, the very heat and dryness of the summer, when combined with the area's ancient system of irrigation, allows the countryside around Turpan to produce great quantities of high-quality fruit. Demography. According to the 2000 census, the city of Turpan had a population of 251,652. The breakdown by nationality was as follows. Transport. Turpan is served by China National Highway 312. It is the junction for the Lanzhou Xinjiang and the Southern Xinjiang Railways.